Hello everyone, my name is Haider Ali Punjabi, and in today's video I will show you how we can measure the voltage and the power consumption of any circuit using a special device called PZEM-004. So this is a PZEM-004 and it can measure the voltage and power consumption of any circuit. In today's video I'll show you how we will flash ESPHome on an ESP32 and connect PZEM to it, and then I'll also show you how we can add it to Home Assistant. In Home Assistant, I'll also show you how we can create some automations with it. So for example, one of the automations I use this device to detect if I get a power cut or not. I have connected this to my mains and I'm powering the ESP32 with the battery backup. So whenever the power cut happens, my ESP32 knows that the voltage has dropped to zero. That means there's a power cut. So let's get started. So I'll show you how to wire the PZEM with the ESP32. PZEM has 4 pins from this side and we'll use this to connect it to the ESP32. So I'll be using some jumper cables. You can power the PZEM with both 5 volts and 3 volts, but I have found that it works better with 3 volts. So the first wire is the yellow one and that's for the 3 volt. I'll plug it in the 3 volt pin, and then the two next pins are for the RX and TX. So I'll plug them in D15 and D2. You need to remember these when you're making the ESPHome config. And then the last pin is the ground pin. So I will connect it to the ground port, and that's it. So that's how you wire it up. After that, the next thing you need to do is wire in the power. So I'll screw in a plug to it to show you the demo. I wired the power. The next thing we'll wire is, it comes with this clamp. This clamp goes around your circuit, the one of the wires of your circuit, and it measures the power consumed by that circuit by measuring the amperes. So I'll screw these two in as well. Okay, now that it's wired up, I haven't plugged it in yet, and I'll give you a small warning that whenever you're working with mains or any high voltage system, always be careful and take your precautions. And if you're not sure what you're doing, please take the help of a qualified electrician. And now let's see and work on the ESPHome code for it. I've already created a configuration PZEM demo and I've already flashed it. So, but this is all the basic template for any ESPHome device. Now we'll add the code for the PZEM. To get the basic code for the PZEM, you can go to the ESPHome website. Let me see. And yeah, there it is. It's the component sensor PZEMAC. So be sure that you're using the version 3 of PZEM because the code for the older versions of PZEM were different. And it says here as well, this page refers to version 3 of the PZEM004. So if you have an older variant, please go to the relevant page. Now here is the code for the PZEM. So I'll copy the entire thing and then we'll make the necessary changes. Oh, that's bad. Okay, so the first thing you see is the UART, RX and TX pin, and they are highlighted red. So I'll need to enter the pins that I used for the RX and TX. So the RX of the PZEM should be plugged into the TX of your ESP32, and the TX of the PZEM should be plugged into the RX of the ESP32. So the orange pin, orange wire is the RX, and I plugged it into D15, so that D15 becomes my TX. So I'll call it GPIO 15, and the gray wire is the TX of the PZEM, and I plugged it into, let's see, the D2, so it's called GPIO2. You can mostly use any pins for the UART, but in case you are not sure if the pins you're using can be used, you can refer to the ESP32 documentation. So that's all the basic configuration you'll need. And now I'll just save, and I'll also add one more thing here that makes it easy to view. I'll add a web server component to it that helps us to view the data easily in our web browser without using Home Assistant. And now I'll just click save and install, and since it's already online I can click wirelessly and it will compile and flash it. So just wait a second. Okay, now the flashing is complete. So what I can do is I'll go to the web server for it. You'll see since I added the web server component, it will show a visit button here, and if I click it, it will go to the web server for the PZEM. Right now all the values are not available since I haven't plugged the wires in. So if I do it, okay, now the wires are plugged in. Okay, now the wires are plugged in and it should show the voltage in a second. I think I made one mistake. If I go back and see the code here, the update interval is 60 seconds, so it will update once every minute. I'll reduce the update interval to 5 seconds. It comes the template on the ESPHome documentation says 60 seconds, but it's up to you how fast do you want it to be. So I'll flash it again just so that we can see the values update really quickly. Okay, so if we go back till it gets flashed with a new configuration, you will see it shows the 230 volts for my voltage, and there are also some other values which won't be as accurate since we haven't plugged in or we haven't used the clamp anywhere yet. So let's just wait to for it to flash, and then we'll come back to the demo, and then I'll show you how the clamp works. Now the flashing is done and it should start again. You will also notice that once it starts polling it every 5 seconds on the PZEM, some of the LEDs will flash every 5 seconds whenever it tries to get a new value. So you just see here it will flash, and yeah, there. So what we'll do now is we'll use the clamp to measure a value. So to measure a value using the clamp, what you need is your phase and neutral wire should be separated. So in case you have something, a wire where both the phase and the neutral wires are insulated by some other layer and you can't access them separately, it will become difficult for you to do this. But I have created a small extension cord where the phase and neutrals are separated, and I use this whenever I need to measure the power consumption of any device. So now I'll plug this in around one of the, you can use the clamp with any of the wires, either the phase or the neutral, it doesn't matter. And this has come out, so I'll just plug it back in or screw it back in. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so I've screwed back the clamp to the PZEM and have wrapped the clamp around one of the wires of this extension cord. Now I'll plug something into this extension port and you'll see the power consumption of it on the screen. So what I have is I have my heat gun here. I'll plug this into the socket and then turn it on. In under 5 seconds you should see, yeah, so you see how the amperage of it is rising. It's using 7 amps right now, and you can also see the power consumption of it. Okay, I'll speak again, and I think you won't be able to hear me if I'm running the heat gun. So if you would have seen when the heat gun was running, it showed the power of around 1600 watts, and it also calculated the amperage. So using this, you saw how the wattage can be measured of any circuit. I'll just remove all these things to continue with the video. So I've removed the clamp and everything from that extension board, and you saw how it worked. Now the next thing I'll do is I'll add this to Home Assistant. So you have seen me do this before as well, but I'll just go through it once more. To add it to Home Assistant, I'll just copy the API key from here and then go to my Home Assistant instance. And if I go to settings and then devices, it should ideally detect the device. Yes, PZEM test and submit. Then I'll paste the key that I just copied, and then it should add it. So here you see all the values are now present in Home Assistant. Next thing that I will show you is how to use this to create an automation that will tell you when there's a power cut. So right now, if I remove the power from the PZEM, it will go back to NA. Okay, I plugged it, I removed the plug, and it's slowly reducing the value, and now it will go to 0 or NA. Okay, So you see the bug here is once I remove the power, it doesn't update the value anymore. We need to fix it, and what I'll do is I'll go back to the ESPHome code. So what you need to do is in the voltage section, we'll add a filter to it. So filters, and the filter will be if it times out. So that means if it cannot measure any value for the voltage, and that means it's had timed out, and we'll give it the timeout time for it to be of around 5 seconds. So if it is not able to measure any voltage for 5 seconds, it will give us 0 value. So the syntax is timeout and then another timeout label and for 5 seconds. So here you enter the time it will take. So if it times out for 5 seconds, then the value it should return is lambda return and return 0. So what this does is if it times out for 5 seconds, it will return the 0 value, and this should work. Let me see why it's throwing an error. Oh, so the error was that I have spelled it incorrectly. So it's timeout and then I'll add the indentation back. Okay, so this is the final code. I'll add a timeout to it, timeout filter to it, and if it times out for 5 seconds, it will return the 0 value. I'll flash it to the ESP32 and let's just wait one more minute. And now the flashing is almost done. I'll go back to Home Assistant and refresh the page. So it should come back in just a second. Yeah, so now it's back. You'll see the voltage is 232. Now if I remove the plug, it will take 5 seconds to update and it will go to 0 since it cannot read any more values. Okay, yeah, so now it has updated to 0. So you will see now that the voltage is set to 0. We can use this to create an automation where we will be notified if there is no power. So we'll get an automation with it and we'll use this device as the trigger, and the condition will be if the voltage changes below 0, and let's say for 5 seconds, or to be safe, let's keep it below 5 for 5 seconds. So this ensures that in case something weird happens for just a moment, it won't trigger. So if the voltage goes below 5 for 5 seconds, it will, let's send ourselves a message over Telegram. I've already set it up. So here's my Telegram bot, and then I'll use send a message, and then I'll write my message. For example, power is gone, and then in the chat ID, there's some place where I have to add a chat ID for it. Let's see. Oh no, I don't. I think I've already configured it. So you'll need to check how to use the Telegram bot integration, but this is the basic configuration for it. Now if I save it, and let's call it power notification, and if I save it, what will happen is whenever the voltage changes to 0, it will send a message to my Telegram. I would have shown it to you in a demo, but my phone is right now recording the table, so I cannot show it, but I know it works because if we go back to my automations, I already have an automation called, where did it go? No power. So this triggers and sends me a message whenever there is no power, and it uses the exact same concept. So this was it for this video. I showed you how to use the PZEM with an ESP32, flash it with ESPHome and add it to Home Assistant. I also showed you a basic automation with it. You can also create automations for example, when the power comes back, you get a notification, and based on these two times, you can create a lot of data. For example, I used to have configured in my old home that the amount of power cuts I had during the day and everything. I'm planning to do that in this home as well, and I will probably record a video around it. So in the next video, what I'm planning to do is I will be connecting multiple PZEMs together. The good thing about this PZEM device is you can chain multiple of them together and connect them to the same 2 RX and TX pin on the ESP32. So chaining multiple together doesn't mean you need multiple pins on your ESP32 to connect it. So that is the next video. After that, in the third video, what I'm planning to do is an entire project using PZEMs. I'm planning to monitor my entire house's power consumption using this. So I'll be creating 2 different boxes of PZEMs, one from outside my home where I'll monitor the power I'm getting from the mains and also the power I'm getting from my diesel generator if I use it in the rare occasion. And the second one will be for inside my house near my battery backup. I will be monitoring the how much power the inverter which we use to convert AC to DC and back from DC to AC the device, how much power the inverter is consuming. So I'll be notified and I'll be informed about how much power my inverter circuit is consuming, how much power my main circuit is consuming. So that will be a whole entire video. There will be a whole entire video around it. So that is the third video in this series. Apart from that, I think that is it for this video. If you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments. I will link a purchase link for this PZEM device in the description. It will be for India only, but I don't think this is a very hard device to find. But if you're facing any issue, just comment it in the video. And I guess that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.